We would welcome our next speaker, Mr. Shittu Sharif. Media crew, are we ready with this introduction?
Sharif Shittu is the founder and CEO of Getdev Technology, a technical talent management company in Nigeria, helping Nigerian startups and others outside the country hire the best developers in Nigeria. Before Getdev, he founded Switch, which is a software development training outfit, helping young graduates learn the basics of software development and helping them get jobs.
As been said, please can I have my slide, please? So I'm going to walk us through what's actually happening in the world now. By training, I'm a software engineer, and I've moved from writing code to actually starting companies and also consulting for those who are starting companies and those who want to move their engineering teams to Nigeria. So the title of my talk is Technical Skills for Global Competitiveness. I was so blessed by our speech earlier because she said we should buy domains and keep them and then sell them in the future. I think I bought a domain in 2011 for 5,000 naira and I sold it for $20,000. So it was 5,000 naira to like 3.5 million. So all the things she said, it was true. So please take note. So finding your place in the world is very, very critical, and I'm going to approaching it from the point of software engineering and technical startup, if time permits us. Yeah. So as a trainer, I've worked with Switch to actually train young graduates. We told them that, hey, don't do your NYSC now. Just take the time to learn and prepare yourself for the marketplace. So that after your service, you already have jobs waiting for you. And then we have hundreds of people who participated, and a lot of them are, they have good jobs now, and some of them are moved abroad. So we need to understand that right now the world is flat. And what I mean in essence is that, companies like Google, Facebook, and Amazon, they are looking to hire talent, and not just in the US or Europe, but they are looking towards Africa and Nigeria. So the question is, if you're willing to work for these companies, what do you need to do to actually prepare yourself? If the time comes for them to acquire talent, will you be good enough for them to get you? And lest we forget, these days they don't look at your degrees before they hire you. So if you come up with first class or whatever class or no class, it depends on the skills that you have and the talent that you would bring forward. So coming into tech, it's exciting because right now, like they always said, software is eating the world, right? And then for every software that you see people interact with, some people build them. She walked us through the glass day that time. All the software that we saw there, some people built them. And I'm going to approach my talk from being the people behind those technologies. How can you learn the skills that will enable you build what people can interact with? And if you're going to start a company that can do something like that, what are the things that you need to start with? So in high demand, software engineering, user experience design for those who have background in graphic design or are very creative. And then also, if you study statistics or economics or anything and you want to come into tech, you can look to starting with data science. And also we have artificial intelligence and so many other available opportunities that they're hiring in Nigeria and also abroad. So what does it take to actually find your way in the world? I read a quote while I was growing up, and it said that the world will stand still for that man or woman who knows where or she is going. So the question is, what do you want the world to stand still for you? What are the things that you actually want to do in the world so that we can give you space to do it? Like I've said in my earlier slide, skills that are in high demand, what it helps you to do is that instead of applying for jobs that have hundreds of thousands of applicants and you have to go through steps of interviews before you get a job, why not have the skills that the jobs will be coming to you and then you can pick and choose? In the world that we have now, you can develop the skills that the companies will be the one applying to have you, and then you can choose whichever one you want. As part of our job at Getdev, we help people who are looking to set up companies in Nigeria to hire people. And sometimes they say, hey, they don't need to come to office. Just sit in your house, and they can pay you as high as ₦1 million per month, and then you can work for, say, 5 hours every day. And to have this skill is very important to know that it's a global global market that we have now. Because the skills, the requirement to have those jobs or to build those apps, they are the same for those who went to Harvard and those who went to UNN and Unilag. So the question is, do you have the grit to actually stay the course? Can you, dedicate long hours to learn these things, because it requires expertise. If you're not good, you can't tell people to pay you ₦1 million per month. Why? Because you want to build a house or what? So it's important that we have to be greedy. As we decide to go into coding, you have to learn and be dedicated to it. And if there's anything that is paramount, that is rampant around Nigerians, is that they want the money, but they don't want to put in the work, right? The work ethic generally in Nigeria is horrible. We've helped people to get jobs abroad, and then you've seen cases where you have a meeting for 12 noon, and then you don't show up. And then you now wake up at 4 p.m. They now ask you, why didn't you show up? You say, I slept off. Why will you sleep off when you have a meeting at 12? But in Nigeria, generally, you just say, okay, don't worry. But if you work with global companies and you do that, they can fire you, and they could even sue you for damages. It's very important that if you're going to go into tech, the work ethic is different, and the reward is very awesome. And lastly, it's very important to be world class. World class means that if you do anything here, whether you build it in Ajangbadi or Ikorodu or VI or Banana Island, will anybody anywhere around the world, be it the US or UK or in China, will they see it and be amazed and say, yes, this is a great work? So Nigeria is not our only place, right? We know everyone is our only place. I mean, our ultimate place. But in this world that we are in, we have to be so good that nobody can ignore us, right? So, how do you get started? How many of us knows Andela here? Wow, so few people. So, it's a US company, but with Nigerian roots. So they help young graduates to start a career in tech, and they actually pay you to become an expert. But that also means that you have to prepare yourself before the screening process. So how do you get started to learn the skills that you can use to become a software engineer or to found a startup? When I joined Conga as a staff, I just wanted to do something with people who who are much smarter than me, who are more experienced. And my first task when I joined the job was actually to say, hey, what's actually happening offline that we can marry with what we're trying to build online that will make us be able to reach everybody on the street. And then my assignment was to say, hey, what can we do? And when you see Conga shops around, pickup points around, that was my first job. And because I could relate with shops offline, and then I could relate with what Amazon was doing online. So we now say, hey, how can we marry that? And then just a week after I joined, we spent about 50 million naira to open those shops across Lagos, and right now it's actually doing pretty well. And then everybody or anybody that have experience with what's happening offline can actually, gain a platform and then execute their ideas. So if you want to go into tech, you got to pick a skills from what I've listed. You can choose to become a front-end engineer or a back-end engineer or a user experience designer, and you can try it and become a data scientist or product manager. So there are so many other things that you can do as a techie, but some of the data that I have here is so unfortunate that we can't project it, but I'll read them out. If you become a software engineer and then your specialization is front-end development, if you spend a year learning, it means that you can be so good that you can have a starting salary of 250,000 naira. And if you are so good and you get a job in the US, you can earn as much as $10,000 per month. Who can help me to calculate that in naira? So 3.6 million. So imagine, you have a spot at Quilocks and you want to burn that place down. After you get your alert, just go there and spend 1.6 million. You still have how much? 2 million naira. It means that you can rent the house in Banana Island. And these are skills that you can spend the next 6 months or a year to learn, and you will be so good that you can earn that much. And then you can become a backend engineer or UX designer, and so many other things that tech allows us to do. And if you decide to start your own companies, maybe you want to be selling pop online or jollof rice or whatever it is, you can so structure it that investors will be chasing you to actually fund your ideas. They can give you $50,000 or $100,000, just for you to start. Becoming an expert is a goal, but what are the things that we need to do? The primary thing is actually to learn. If you don't learn, you can't get good. And if you're not good, nobody will pay for you because you need money, right? They will be paying for that skills that you have. And, if you want to learn anything, nobody can help you to learn it, right? It's after you learn it and you are so good that people will pay for it. Like they said, you need to spend at least 10,000 hours of practice to actually become an expert. So the question now is, how bad do you want it? If you want it so bad, can you put in the 10 hours in the next 2 years or in the next 20 years? So then the choice is yours, And then the more you learn and the more you actually discover that the more you can know and the more you put into it, and the better your chances of becoming world class. In getting started, one of the critical things that I've seen that has affected people when I train people is the fact that some people cannot just drop their phone. Every time they want to tweet, they want on Facebook, they want to YouTube, on whatever they want to do. And then they now have divided attention. So what they need to learn in a year, they now spend like 5 years chasing it. And then their dream just becomes a moving target. They never hit it. So if you're going to start into tech or coding or product design or anything, you've got to shut out social media because it's killing everybody. So if you're going to start, you can get started by learning for free. YouTube is the biggest university in the world. People spend like 5 billion hours every day watching videos. So if you want to start by learning anything, just go on YouTube and search for whatever you want to learn. There are resources that have been put together to help. And then you can get on Udemy, just like she said, with $10, that's about 3,600 naira. You can buy a course that can change the direction of your life, and then you can tell a story. And then Udacity and their free code camp, and also there are also training outfits in Lagos that we can learn from. And once you do that, after learning, the next thing is now to build a portfolio. When you tell people that you have a skill, yes, you know that, but they don't know, right? What they now need to know is to actually see what you have done with it. How do you go about that? You can think of ideas, or go to popular sites and rebuild them, or popular mobile apps that we use, you can rebuild them so that once you have the opportunity to showcase whatever you have, you can tell. Nobody needs to know that you were not paid to build those things, but they just want to verify that you have the skills, and they should pay you for what you're asking for. Internship and volunteering, they are very, very important. The first website I built in my life, it was for free, and that got me a job at an investment bank, and then I joined them as a full-time staff, and I worked there and I made a lot of connection, So, and then looking back now, ask myself, what if I hadn't done it for this guy for free? I would have access to the opportunity, So try as much as possible to volunteer. And if you have internship opportunity, whether it's paid or free, the goal is to make sure that you have access to people who can guide you in your journey, that you have access to build stuff, so that when your time comes to actually be the boss, you know what you're saying. So whether you want to become your own boss or you want to become a millionaire or whatever you choose, try as much as possible to get a job, right? getting a job with the skill you have, some of the things they do is that they shape you into a proper professional. There are people who just started out as an engineer, and then they say they don't want to work under anybody. And then they work for 3, 4, 5 years. They just never improved because they are working at their own pace, which is not in line with what the world is expecting. So after you gain the skill, try as much as possible to get a job so that you can learn from people who are more experienced. And if you decide to start your own company, you can start a startup and raise funding. How do ideas come? It's all about the everyday things that we experience. If you have problem buying things online, then you want to do e-commerce. But if you are very good at helping people think through their idea, then you can become a consultant, and then you can write online and people pay you for that. So how do you succeed in our industry? If you choose to become a software engineer, you need to understand that there are so many things to learn. But learning comes from becoming an expert in one thing. And I used to tell my trainees that you've got to go deep before you go wide. That means that if you pick a particular technology to learn, maybe it's JavaScript or whatever it is, you have to spend time to know everything about it. And from there, you can pick other things that you need to learn. And then continuous learning is very important because whatever you know yesterday may not be valid in the next 1 year. And then you've got to be open-minded to say if whatever you're building, someone tells you that there's a new and better way to do them, are you going to stick to that way that you know, or you're going to learn from someone who knows it better? And then if you have another way to do things, in software engineering we call it algorithm. If your way of solving a problem doesn't give you the solution that you want, can you listen to another approach, or can you test out another approach? And then finally, you've got to be world class, because whatever you're trying to build, so many other people around the world, they are going to build it. I think last week I was at a conference with Chinese, the people that built technophones. They flew in their engineers and their product manager into Nigeria, and we had a meeting. Do you know what they're trying to do? They're trying to look at everything that we do in our lives. They want to now build products for them. They want to build apps for them. And then, listening to them, I was like, why are we not doing this? Right? Why are youths, why are they not looking into this? And these are young people that are already millionaires in dollars. And they are still hungry for more. And then once they come with their experience and their money, how do we compete with them? How do we compete with them? And as we search for our personal success and greatness, we need to understand that there is one critical thing that is holding us down as a country, and it's the I better pass my neighbor mentality. Once you get good, maybe you get a job or you make some money, and then you are now richer than your friends. You're not like, I better pass my neighbor, right? And then people stop driving for more. They stop improving. They stop trying to achieve more because everybody around them look up to them. Because everybody around them, they are not as successful, or they haven't achieved much as they have. So you've got to kill that mentality, because at the end of the day, your neighbors should not be the benchmark for what you want to achieve. And in the marketplace, the world don't know your neighbors, right? So if you now make your neighbor your benchmark, it means that you'll not be good enough for the world. And we're talking about taking over the world, right? So how are you going to make the world your focus and not your neighbor? So never settle in everything that you pursue. Never settle means that if you're earning $1,000 this year, how many times over do you want to earn in another 12 months, right? And how many work do you now need to put in that? If your goal is to travel to Canada and leave Nigeria for Buhari, what is required in Canada for you to get a job, right? Can you put in the effort to actually learn and prepare yourself? Because in Canada, they are looking to hire people, but most of our people are not skilled in the things that they need to hire for. So if you have a dream, it requires work. And then during the work, that is when your desire for the dream will be tested. Are you going to give excuses, or are you going to tell us stories of how you overcome your challenges? If you want to get started and you don't have a laptop, can you just sell your phone and buy a laptop? So you've seen people who are looking for jobs and they have a phone of 80,000 naira. My brother, if you sell the phone for 70,000 naira, you can use 30,000 naira to buy a laptop, and you can buy a smaller phone, and life continues. And then you can ask anybody that have a spare system to help. At the end of the day, Nigeria cannot stop us, Buhari cannot stop us, no matter how clueless he is. But we are the ones that have the power to either stop ourselves or push everyone around us. So I'm going to end here, and if you do have any questions, say you want to start a startup or you want to go into tech by becoming a software engineer, you can shoot me an email. I'll be very happy to help. So Lagos State is sponsoring developers. I think they're doing a program at the moment. It's Lagos Innovate. If you go to lagosinnovate.ng, you will see it. So they help you to pay for training materials, training courses in Lagos. So if you sign up, they'll pay your training fee, and then we are working with some of them to actually help people get jobs after the training. So thank you for your time, and if you have a question, I will be here. Thank you.